Hello, welcome to my official fourth episode, Why You Shouldn't Vote for Trump, Part 1. I'm going to get straight into it, so get ready. I don't think I'm ready, but I'm really ready because please do not vote for Trump. Now, this is going to be a very brief podcast. And I really actually wasn't going to show my face because I'm going to show you a video that's about 6 minutes long. It is from the Wall Street Journal, and whether you think that is biased media or not, uh, does not make a difference because the detriment that I am pointing out that was caused by Trump is actually emitted from his mouth, which a lot of Trump supporters really don't care about. Um, they don't care that he's bumbling most of the time. They don't care that, they try to point out that Kamala sometimes dodges questions and sometimes she does. I'm very non biased. But most of the time she lands and she gets to the point. And this man almost never directly answers the question, but they don't care. They don't care. They hate women. They feel like they're the top 1% or close to it. So they're like, oh, I don't want my taxes to increase. This is what I've been hearing from many of the African American Republicans that I now frequently encounter because of my posts sometimes on the Anton Daniels show, and him, along with many of his followers, are African American Republicans, which modern day to me does not make a lot of sense, but everybody is entitled to their opinion. However, they have been drilling me about, oh, why is Kamala so great? I am always going to vote currently Democrats because currently Democrats have been known to want to take care of the poor through Medicare and Medicaid, want to keep things like housing and WIC and food stamps, afloat. And yearly they get better at detecting fraud. And I honestly believe that very high majority of people who are on these services are in very need of them. And historically, Republicans don't care. They do not care about taking care of the poor. They want to get rid of these systems and things like Obamacare and or now also known as the Affordable Care Act. They just want to get rid of it. They don't even have a good replacement. They just want to get rid of it because they do not care about taking care of those on the bottom. I think a society like that will eventually crumble, or just very negative things will come from that. But, Republicans act oblivious to that. And Trump, his main goal when he was in office was to get rid of Obamacare. And did he do that? Absolutely not. Just change the name. And, that's so indicative of this guy who they really should not put all their trust in, as he did nothing that he said. He's a big, showy person. He's about very, look what I did, very flashy, very arrogant, very misogynist, proudly misogynist. And many of his followers do not care. And he has honest to God racial bias that if you do not want to admit that, that's fine, whatever. I'll just note that even at the Republican National Convention, the African American section that were waiting for him, he absolutely and totally ignored, as he only considers the Black vote. And that is when he's talking about Black people and Black issues, is just to get your vote. He really does not care. Unless you got a lot of money. That's it. So as you could tell, I am very against Trump. Please vote Kamala or don't vote at all. I believe in your right to vote, but I think it will be a detriment to this country if that bumbling person, I do not want to, I love everybody, right? So, yeah, on a level, I love Trump because I'm a Christian, but I do not think he is fit to be president in any shape, way, or form. And that is what I am here to convince you of. Yes, you. This is very highly political video. I don't know what's going to come of it. Maybe one person will see it, maybe more. Hopefully, whoever sees it at least considers my point of view. Now, from the people who I've been questioning the most about being so pro Trump, from the get go, their number one, from my point of view, their number one. Is this on? Yeah, it's on. I did a whole video before where this was off and nothing came through. I just had a panic attack. I was like, I'm going to say all this again. Okay. Back to the point. The main thing that people were saying was like, oh, well, under Biden, I didn't have as many tax breaks as I did. I didn't make as much money as I did when Trump was in office. Whatever Trump did to the taxes, I experienced the opposite of that under Biden. And so I want Trump again because he's going to make the taxes low again. Well, I have a video to disprove that claim completely from your orange boy himself, out of the horse's mouth. Okay. I'm going to show you this video. And the big thing, I'm going to summarize it right here, is that the fact is the big tax reform that Trump put into place does not end until the end of 2025. This is something in the video I'm going to show you that even Trump says and knew when he signed it into law, that it does not officially end until the end of 2025. That means that any money loss you had under Biden, any tax, recollections or anything you had to pay extra that you felt under Biden was still due to Trump's policy. Because guess what? Trump is about big flashy moves and not about wisdom. He's this big macho man, so I guess that makes these, macho men feel safe. And, I guess they would feel weak if a woman was president. But he lacks wisdom, or even taking wisdom from those who know, because I'm sure the bill that he signed into law for the taxes, he did not research. And that's why on the back end, whatever suffering or loss or whatever you attributed to Biden as your finances not doing as well they did to Trump was still due to Trump. This is the facts. I'm going to show you a video to prove this. So this video dissects the proposed plans of, at the time when it was made, Biden was running, Biden and Trump. It's a really good video, 6 minutes. I want you to see it all. I hope you give it a listen in total. This is serious. This is part one. I'm going to have something else tomorrow. I feel very strongly about this. Here we go. We're hitting the ground. Please do not vote for Trump. I'm not going to try to defend Kamala. I love Kamala. I think she would do a great job as president. I think she's going to run on Democratic policies, which I support more, as long as they have been in the past decade, for the people. I will always vote Democratic. I didn't think Biden, unfortunately, was competent enough just because of his health to run another term. But I was still going to vote for him because he is Democratic. I am Democratic for now because the policies support taking care of the poor in ways that Republicans don't even want to discuss because if you're poor, it's your fault. So, I know I said a mouthful. I didn't know I was going to talk that long. I thought this was going to be a whole 10-minute video. This is going to be short. But I had to get that out, y'all. I hope you're hearing me. I hope I'm coming through clear. Please watch this video. I don't know yet if I'm going to come back and say something after the video. But this is interesting. It proves what I said, and I hope you reconsider and do not vote for Trump.
President Biden and Donald Trump have very different tax plans they'd like to implement if elected for another term. Very different.
There's a $6 trillion difference, at least, between the two sides if each were to get its own ideal policies in place.
With broad tax cuts from 2017 set to expire at the end of next year, Biden and Trump are headed in opposite directions.
A fair tax code is how we invest things to make this country great.
We will cut your taxes even further. That's what built our economy.
Here's what's in that $6 trillion chasm and the difficulties with turning those plans into law.
This is the bill right here, and we're very proud of it.
I just wanted to point out here that Trump is like a child signing these big old, refrigerator drawings. Look what I did. I signed this big, it's going to save you money. But on the back end, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and you're probably going to have to pay back those taxes or pay more or lose money in some other way because he did not have foresight surrounding this tax thing that he put into place that he was so proud of. He is like a child. That's all I wanted to point out. So, as we continue.
In December 2017,
look what I could do.
Signed into law the most far-reaching overhaul of the U.S. tax system in decades. The legislation included lower individual tax rates ending before January 1st, 2026, with a maximum rate of 37%, down from the previous 39.6%. Standard deduction increased. Child tax credit doubled. And the corporate tax rate was permanently slashed to 21%. Its lowest point since 1939.
The goal was to try to spur investment, to give businesses more deductions, lower rates, lower taxes on their profits so they'd be more incentivized to make profits, to give people more money in their pockets so they would spend more money.
But the sweeping cuts also drew criticism.
The president is part of the top 1%, and the bill is aimed to help the top 1%.
If Congress does nothing, those individual tax cuts will expire at the end of 2025.
You hear that?
And the government estimates that the national revenue would follow this line. Neither Biden nor Trump wants that to happen.
Even though Trump said it all.
Trump's plan would bring in less money than the revenue baseline. Biden's plan would collect more. The two agree on extending tax cuts for households that make under $400,000 a year.
At least they're a year of that.
But there is a major difference in how they would tax big corporations and people at the highest income levels.
I will make the Trump tax cuts permanent. They expire in a year.
Said it out of his mouth. If you think this media is biased, he said it. He knew that his tax plan was not going to expire until the end of 2025. So any reason like, I made more money under Trump,
extending those tax cuts would cost the government up to $4 trillion over the next decade.
Still pay again.
For example, keeping the reduced rates and wider tax brackets for ordinary income would cost some $2 trillion. And the expanded standard deduction would reduce federal revenue by over $900 billion.
Been some back and forth among Republicans about exactly how comfortable they are with further increases in the deficit because of tax cuts. In the 2017 law, not everyone got a tax cut. There were things that raised money to help offset the changes they made. But in general, they weren't trying to keep things deficit neutral. They were willing to increase deficits in order to cut taxes. And that's a choice they'll have to make again.
On the other side of the divide, Biden wants not only to pay for the rate cuts he'd like to keep, but also bring in additional revenue. Getting that done would not be easy.
He wants to extend the tax cuts for people making under $400,000. So it's a couple $1 trillion, not the full $4 trillion, but a good chunk of that to keep those tax cuts going for most people.
Beyond that, Biden says he'll increase taxes in other areas to bring in more money for the government.
You want to make or can make a million or millions of bucks, that's great. Just pay your fair share in taxes.
Facts. I
Fairness
agree.
is in the eye of the
You
beholder
making
when it
that
comes to
much?
taxes. His idea
Pay
is basically
25%,
that
pay
high-income people and corporations should pay
40%.
more,
You are
and
still
that
a
money should
millionaire.
go largely for new programs and for
And
reducing
it's just
deficit.
your due.
Biden hasn't laid out exactly where all of this money would come from, but he has outlined what would be some key revenue sources, including raising the corporate tax from 21% to 28%. The Treasury estimates that alone would garner some $1.3 trillion for the government over 10 years. He has also proposed taxes on individuals at the top, like an increased Medicare tax, revamping capital income taxes, and imposing a 25% minimum tax on the super rich. That set of changes would raise more than $1.8 trillion. Overall, Biden wants to cover the $4 trillion for continued tax cuts and raise taxes by more than $2 trillion on top of that. But there's a catch.
A lot of the tax increases that Biden is running on are ones that he ran on in 2020 or has proposed during his first term. Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House for 2021 and 2022, and very few of the tax increases they wanted got through.
So basically what he's saying is that, yes, these are the same tax cuts or tax increases that he proposed in the beginning of his term. And they didn't go through even when Democrats had the majority. And I gather that's because many of the Democrats are probably part of the 1% who are voting and also did not want those tax increases on their money. If you believe in all this conspiracy stuff, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Anything could be possible. We don't know what's really going on. We just know what we see. And yes, Democrats, Republicans, same color, same, different sides of the same coin, however you want to say it. It's not much difference between them, it's a lot of difference between them, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's still a major agenda, clearly. Because clearly I'm a Democrat because they're more for the people and Republicans are not. And that's my thing. Hill I'll die on. Okay. So that does it for me. That's all I need. As a Christian, it really should be all you need. Because we are not a Christian nation, y'all. We are not a Christian nation. And I'll go into that next. I'll go to that next because that's a whole other probably 20 minutes. Christians, you cannot be trying to vote for Trump just because, he's trying to criminalize abortions. And yeah, we cannot put our beliefs in the laws. That is not something that God wants us to do. Okay, we can uphold our beliefs. We can promote our beliefs. We can promote the love that God wants. But He gave us all free will. And so people have a right to believe what they want to believe and to do what they want to do. And as long as it's not hurting another person, when you talk about, homosexual marriage, that should be allowed. A homosexual should have the right to get married. And anybody with logic is like, why are you even saying this? But there's plenty of people who just don't believe this, and it's just so absurd. It's like, I'm not gonna go into it. And yes, of course, if you don't believe in abortion, some people think that no matter what. It's murder, but there's so much complexity to a lot of that. And I'm sorry, we allowed it. We allowed it as a country. It's too late. It is a right. It does have to do with a woman who, having the right to decide if she wants that to go on in her body or not. And I am pro life, but I support people's decision to be pro choice. And that's okay. Two things can be true at the same time. And yes, I really wish I didn't go into that now here because I took up too much time. So we're gonna finish this. Because I just went off on a tangent. I'm sorry, y'all. Bear with me. So we can finish this. But anyway, Biden has not changed. He wants to tax the rich more, and that is okay in my book. I'm gonna probably be one of those riches pretty soon. God, to God be the glory, is the child's will. And I would not mind if I was a billionaire or even just a very high millionaire. I would not mind paying more taxes so that people who make way, 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 way less than me don't have to pay, almost 20% of their check. Because that's crazy.
As we think about the $6 trillion or more gap between the two candidates, so much really depends on the results of the election.
Democrats and Republicans both want to extend tax cuts for the majority of Americans, but even getting that done will be messy.
There's likely to be one big tax bill in 2025. And so even if there's a point of agreement on what happens for the bulk of people, the revenue consequences, the distributional consequences, the political consequences are all tied to what happens to corporations and high-income people. People making under 400,000 should feel somewhat confident that their tax cuts will get extended because both parties want to do it, but it will be just inextricably linked to what happens broadly with all the pieces of the tax cuts that are contentious.
All right, y'all. There is another one that they updated for Kamala's plans. And we might go on that on part 2 of Don't Vote for Trump. But that is the end of my rant. It went a little longer than I wanted it to go. But hopefully the message is clear. Please don't vote for Trump. Vote Kamala. Or don't vote. Tune in for the next episode.